Welcome to this Shift podcast, coming to you live from New York City at Commvault Shift 2025. What's today's topic? Protecting the AI stack, what you need to know. And I am very, very pleased to be joined by two special guests. First, Deb Singh, CIO of Persistent Systems. Thank you for being here. Fantastic to have you. And Michael Fasulo with Commvault, Senior Director of Portfolio Marketing. And 22 years, if I may say, with Commvault. Impressive. Yep. So what we're going to do today is tackle just a small subject, tiny subject on protecting the AI stack. I mean, as it is, we know AI is already moving at light speed, and actually figuring out a way to protect it is the real challenge. So thank goodness we have these two gentlemen here today. So Michael, I'm going to put you on the spot first. Let's just start here. We got a lot of layers. We've got legacy data lakes, databases, right, that we've got. They've been there at the base layer. On top of that, we have vector databases, and then, of course, all of this feeding into our AI systems. So maybe just start us off. How complex of a task is this to just figure out a way to protect these three? And how often are you having conversations already about this?
Quite frequently, I would say. So I think people are still trying to figure out all the different minutiae, and there's obviously new databases from the traditionals. Some of the traditionals are now adding vectorization to them. So, you know, we find that customers are first calling us up to get some advisory, right? Trying to be really good advocates and data stewards. And then obviously, you know, with the robustness of our platform, we're able to protect it from people building code on their laptops, to their GitHub repositories, to the vector databases, to all the inner minutiae and stitching together of those applications, whether they be cloud native or even private AI on-prem, along with the LLMs themselves. So, you know, really protecting that wide sweep, I think, is important, much more than just, hey, I have this piece of the AI application that needs to be protected.
Yeah. So, Deb, you have the tough job. So, CIO. We were just chatting before we started, 26,000, let's call it, folks at your company, right?
That's right. Yeah.
So maybe if you could start us a little about what you all do, right, for those that aren't familiar, and your role specifically in how you're tackling this challenge, both maybe externally, which I'm sure you're involved with, and internally.
Absolutely. So Persistent is a digital engineering company based out of India, but works for the global customers and primarily in North America. If you look at my role as the CIO, I have got two different sides to look at. One, of course, I drive 4 priorities on my internal facing role: growth, profitability, optimization, so on and so forth, driving employee experience, keeping compliance and security in mind. So there are 4 different priorities for me from internal facing side. Point of view. But if you look at my external side of the role, I create solutions and, of course, the best of the techs, apply across my 26,000 employees, test it out, and we take it to our customers for that. So that is what my larger role is. And looking at the changes, what is happening in our current time, and I keep on saying this every time got into this kind of opportunity and stage, that we possibly have going through one of the most interesting time of technology era. And while whatever past has happened, this is a phase wherein with AI coming into every single aspect of a business that we're talking about, it is touching life of your business, your services, your employees, your customers, everywhere. And it is happening at a really, really massive speed. And what matters the most is how quickly you are aligning your services with all the controls we spoke about, security, compliance, of course, the rest of the stuff, to deliver those assurance and the services and the quality, driving the business priorities. Interesting time.
Unbelievable. So I have to ask, first, fascinating, right? You get to use your client base or your internal employee base as an incubator for these things, right, before they go external. And to Michael's point a moment ago, you've dealt with these different pieces, maybe not the AI piece, but how fast are you trying to pivot those internal teams that may have been classic RDBMS experts into understanding all of the new tools that are just moving so quickly? Or do you have to hire for that?
Well, that's again an interesting question. If you look at in current time, understanding of tech is slowly becoming secondary. what is the primary priorities that we see is understanding of the business and, of course, the requirement around that. As long as you have complete clarity of understanding business, in current time using AI, you can build practically every single solution without knowing or getting into the details of tech core stacks, right? And that is what the interesting about it. So we are looking at the change in the skill set from getting into the core development side, while that still continues, but it is definitely kind of reducing in terms of the speed and kind of with the enablement that we get from different AI models. It is happening in very, very rapid, fast time. So that is getting reduced. So what the time you spend is translating the business problems into the actual solution and using the tech with the powered by AI to deliver those services.
And the speed of that, the speed of the changing tool, just ecosystem in general, but how are you keeping your hands wrapped around that? Or do you have like special tiger teams who are just fast following, or how does that work?
Well, a very, very interesting question. And there are two parts to it again. One, of course, you need people with right intent and attitude. That is what matters the most than understanding deep tech. While deep tech continues to be there, but in current time, there are enough and more models available to kind of double click on those models and utilize that for your solution that you are driving. So you need to have the right people, and we do have a team who primarily focuses on the business problems and translating those problems into the solution side using different AI models to kind of get the solution out. And whatever we do today, possibly we have got the largest number of AI agents running internally, delivering every single services for the employees, and of course enabling the business intelligence to take decisions, both happening.
In the news cycle, whether you're a bull or you're a bear, is this real, is it not? It's funny to me when you hear people say, oh, this is going to take a long time, but you talk to somebody like yourself who is in charge of a very large company, focused on these solutions, and really seeing them in everyday life, and they're permuted everywhere. And you ask yourself, how do people stay on the bear side of this? Because it is so prevalent. I mean, we see it at Commvault as well, right, Michael? So I got to ask, all of these incredible things, they're doing all this stuff. How many people are thinking resilience first, Michael?
I was going to ask security first.
Yeah,
How are
okay.
you balancing speed and security, right? So you're saying, like, everyone wants to move with max velocity, but how do you make sure they do that in a secure way where you're not leaking sensitive data, patents, and stuff like that? How are you addressing those concerns?
So I will possibly put it this way. Look, anything and everything we do, security has to be part of the integral solutioning itself rather than afterthought, right? Security cannot be afterthought.
Right.
So with AI coming in, it becomes much easier, not difficult. Let me just possibly help double click on the different models and the approach that we drive today. We have got set of data. We just spoke about different series of data. So data is one side of it. Second comes your language models, LLMs, whatever you call it, AI models, simplifying that. And third comes the prompts, where we consume the services, prompt engineering or the names we put it. These are three different aspects of creating agentic world inside whatever businesses that you drive. So you have to look at security for every segment inside it. Let's talk about data fast. You have got, I think the challenges used to be in the earlier time, processing of those data used to be very, very difficult, right? It used to take a lot of time. That is changing very fast with compute being available and processing becoming so easier. So you can possibly churn out trillions of data very, very fast, quick, almost near real time. When that happening, are you defining the right controls, be it authorization, authentication, and need to know basis access? Is it defined for every single component? Otherwise, what happens is your model doesn't understand that. They consume everything, and you just put a command in terms of your prompt or whatever you write, that's immediately visible to you. So you have to start with the data layer fast, right? That is the first part you do. Next comes what kind of models that you're using it. Does it support any kind of ring fencing? the guardrails, whatever you generally talk
Sure.
about.
Yep.
So how are you defining your models to follow the guardrails? Is it defined correctly? Defined for the data structure that you have? Defined for the application that you are going to consume it for? So you have to see both the side, right? And the third component is at the consumption layer, who is actually going to consume it? Are you defining that? What kind of prompts will be allowed? I'll just give an example. Let's say any large enterprise for that matter puts entire data structure in the back in data lake or whatever you do it, put multiple agents or rather models, AI models to kind of consume that data. Now AI understand all aspects of the data in that enterprise. And let's say a threat actor just come in as a consumption layer, types a command, give me the possible vulnerabilities, open areas, or whatever available which can be exploited.
Yeah.
It is visible in fraction of a second.
That's right.
That's right.
Right?
That's right. That's right.
So you can.
What used to take them long time to reconstitute it, and they were pulling it from disparate sources. Like, wow, you've served this up on a silver platter.
That's right.
Yeah.
I only need to take one LLM
Absolutely.
for the entire keys of the kingdom, right? Which I'm sure everybody listening is saying, my goodness, please give me a couple nuggets to take away, because this is what scares everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. That is what matters the most. And hence, you need to have security as part of design at every single component, data, model, and the consumption layer, which is your prompt engineering. Who can prove what kind of prompt, what prompts are allowed, what is not allowed, which models can consume which data, and of course the data layer security. All three has to be combined together to give you the output that you're looking forward. So
identity
Yep.
and the actual application itself.
absolutely.
Now, what about the resiliency of the app? As your teams are becoming more dependent on these technologies,
Yeah.
you know, we saw in the last couple of weeks, there's been some outages at the hyperscalers, Claude's been frequently going down.
Right.
As we continue to use these tools in our day-to-day, when they go down, they become catastrophic. What about the actual resiliency of the application itself?
Very pertinent question. When possibly you are doing in a traditional tech solution approach, your one particular system not available for X amount of time, you are still able to manage with Excels, offline data, whatever means, right?
Right.
In current time, that option is not available to you anymore.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Everything is processed on real time,
Yeah.
and you see the real time intelligence to take decisions. And if it is not available, just think about the impact. You are practically stopping your entire business.
That's right.
So you don't take that risk,
Yeah.
right? So you have to start looking at how I am protecting my resiliency factor for every component. The three components spoke about: data layer, your AI model layer, and the consumption layer. Many a time, if you look at large enterprises, may possibly not focusing on the consumption layer. Think about it. When you are developing a particular application or agent, you are allowing the agent to learn with different prompt engineering that we call it. Let's say the prompt engineering is not available. The prompts are not available, right? How are you going to recover?
Right.
You have the data,
Right.
you have the engine,
Yeah.
but you do not know how to consume it.
Yeah.
That's right.
So
That's right.
you have to focus every single component when you look at the resiliency. So then only you are able to kind of recover and bring it back and run the business the way it's supposed to happen.
Love it.
Yep.
So could I ask this? So, you know, as probably folks that are listening are saying, look, they're already writing feverishly. I know that. But asking about how you've organized your entire team, maybe a couple of, you know, golden nuggets for us as to how you've structured things. I know that may not be perfectly applicable for everybody, but it'll give folks a chance to say, hey, look, that's a big company.
Yeah.
If this is how he's organizing things, maybe there's something I can take away there from a taxonomy. So how did you, over the last year or two, twist the dials for your organization?
I will say focus on one aspect. While all three components we spoke about, the data and the AI models, that is generally managed centrally. So the IT team generally manages those components, and you will find more or less very controlled application of those two components, and there is definitely the right kind of a mechanism to back it up, test it in the regular frequencies, and so on, so to ensure the resiliency is maintained. The biggest challenge comes is the AI engineers who are actually working on ground and putting those, making the data really give you the intelligence, right?
Yep.
So that is where the challenges come. And AI engineers, they have definitely a huge challenge in terms of allowing the prompts to be copied, because they many a time, and that's human tendency, is that I feel if everything that I'm doing is kind of getting backed up, then there is no value that I'm kind of going to say I bring to the table, right?
Right.
That is what happens, all right? So that component, driving change and driving culturally, aligning the priority for your AI initiatives, how you are ensuring that component is also getting captured. And that happens at the end device. It doesn't happen centrally. That's the biggest challenge, right? Your prompt engineering many a time happens at the edge. How you are ensuring that is getting stitched together when you look at resiliency end-to-end. As long as you focus on that, I'm sure the first two component, any standard mature organization does it pretty well, right? But the third component is where people generally miss it. That is something has to be stitched together. Otherwise, you recover the data, you recover the model, you can't consume it. That is the biggest challenge. And of course, approach, I would say, we have learned it hard way, but we definitely focus it. And that's something possibly for the audience to kind of focus on when you are looking at creating a resilience model. Definitely focus on the prompt side of it, edge side of it, and what the AI engineers are doing. Is it available to you to recover your overall end-to-end system?
Chris, can I jump in?
Yeah, jump in.
So you said something I'd love to know a little bit more about. So you said you learned it the hard way.
Yep.
How is your organization improving the literacy of AI in the organization to make sure that they completely understand these powerful tools that they have at their disposal?
All right. If we look at in last 18 months or so, right, the AI has come to the mainstream. Of course, it was there for ages. Last 12 to 15 years, AI was always there. But generative AI, with the compute being available easily, so generative AI has come to the forefront. With that, enterprises like us have created a lot of accelerators and IPs, which we use for managing the life cycle of product development, solutioning, and so on and so forth. And many a time, and that is why I said hard way, many a time when you build those solutions, you tend to probably ignore the requirement of ensuring the prompt engineering component is getting the equal importance or equal priority on your overall ecosystem. And when you do it at a scale, because you're talking about thousands of users or AI engineers working on it, so you miss certain component because every AI engineer brings certain value and to ensure things are kind of really distributed. So you have to ensure every single component is stitched together there and bring that component of intelligence, whatever is getting created, because at the end of the day, those are the IPs that you are building, and it's getting a kind of stitched part of your overall resilience model so that you can really kind of use it with confidence for, of course, your internal users, customers, or whatever you do.
Awesome.
Yep.
You know, it's interesting. You're big enough that you have AI engineers, can afford them, have multiple, and I'm sure a lot of folks listening saying, we want to get to the point where we could afford multiple W-2s to do that, and there's a lot of fractional renting of these type of very smart people, right? Everything you're talking about, especially prompt engineering, all of these issues even get exacerbated when you're not in control of those people full time.
Right.
So I can imagine that the importance you're saying is even elevated, right? If you're doing this fractionally. So Michael, if I can ask, I mean, we know our corner of the world. We're trying to grow, right? Because we have to do all the things that Deb is talking about. How are we tackling this? I mean, how is Commvault trying to both stay grounded on one side of what we do and expand to make sure we're covering these new vectors?
Yeah, so I think early on in our AI journey, we took a hard step back and said, you know, how do we build a whole bunch of design principles that we're going to stick to regardless of how the technology changes? so that it could be grounded in security, and ultimately the solutions we deliver are trustworthy, right? I think that's the most important thing, is you really want to be trustworthy. And if we're good data stewards, or the best data stewards, that trust is imperative, right? Like we just simply can't waver on it. So, the executive team took a hard look at the information that we had then, with the crystal ball foreshadowing how this was going to evolve. And I think we created those principles, and then we built upon those principles as we designed solutions, not only to protect AI, but to leverage AI within the product, not using customer data, and then also providing data sets to AI to enrich those data sets. So I think having that grounding, and again, that's why I asked about literacy, because we went through a similar exercise internally, where it was like, if we know that this behemoth's in front of us, we want to make sure everyone kind of understands how to process information the right way, not using their own stuff all the time. So I think all of those kind of provide that perfect storm of how we've tackled that, so we can remain trustworthy and deliver trustworthy data to our customers.
Now, I've got to ask, right? I mean, I don't want to put you on the spot, but what we think and how we're doing is one thing. How we're really doing for you as a client is the most important thing. And maybe if I can even expand that to just, data protection industry in general. If I could ask, how are we doing as a group, and what do you need from us as you're looking, down the tunnel at all the projects, all the requests you're getting for clients? Where can we improve?
Well, that's an interesting point.
It was loaded. I mean, it's a juicy question.
All right. I think I will go back to almost 3 years when we started this relationship. Of course, we used to use Commvault prior to that as well. We were kind of working on building a larger revamp of our tech stack.
Okay.
And that is the time we wanted a partner who will get aligned with our approach of looking at data and help us to bring that resilience architecture, which will give us that assurance of defining RPOs, RTOs, and of course, doing the regular dry runs and so on and so forth, so that whatever you are defined on paper, implementation and testing, all three aspects has to be looked into, right? And I must say that we definitely did the standard approach for a CIO is look at the possible tech, look at the maturity of the tech that is available. And the biggest advantage that I saw with Commvault was the flexibility. Flexibility to work with customer, like Persistent, and build solutions which will align to the industry requirement that we had at that point of time, and at the same time carry that flexibility over the period. Because why I'm saying why that is the most critical one, just think about 3 years back. AI was definitely there, but not to this scale.
Right.
And as the technology world is changing very, very fast, if we have a backup solution which doesn't get aligned to this dynamics of the change, you will immediately get into a Stone Age solution, right? That's not going to help anymore. As the maturity changes, as the new tech comes in, as the dynamics hits the tech stack, how flexible we are to get aligned to that requirement and how quickly we are moving in. Because every solution, every customer is different, every solution is different. So how quickly you are ready to get aligned. Very, very comfortable working with Commvault, and that continues even today.
Well, thank you for your candor. Yeah, appreciate that. And Michael, I see you smiling over there. My goodness.
What a testimonial, right? Like, wow. Customers talking about, a very purpose-built architecture. And look, it was very intentional. And, as Chris said, I've been here 22 years. So I saw it when it was like the old school monolith to what it is today. And that scale and resiliency is baked into the being of what we really built. And that, is all powered by the architecture. So that flexibility and how it operates, especially as you described it, was very intentional. And I'm glad that you were able to take advantage of it to solve not only the problems you had 3 years ago, but your problems of today. And of course, the problems that you're going to have tomorrow. So that was awesome. I really appreciate you going into that detail. It was fantastic.
And we know we have to keep writing because the 3-year window continues, right?
Always,
Whatever window you want to
always,
define,
right?
it never ends. So, to that, in closing, anything, Deb, that you'd like to add for everybody who's on notebook 6 at this point and pen number 4 scribbling away, but anything you'd like to leave them with that we didn't chat about?
No, I think from a typical tech standpoint, focus on your business priorities. Define very clearly what is that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
All right. As long as you are clear on your requirement, there are solutions, there are partners to work with you to achieve those requirements. But if you are not very, very clear, what is that I'm trying to kind of drive towards, it creates confusion. Then you get into a not so comfortable discussions, which is absolutely need to avoid. So fast thing fast, understand your requirement, define the tech priorities, and find a partner who's flexible enough to work with you in those dynamics. So that's what I will say.
An absolute clinic. Absolute clinic. Deb, thank you for being here, coming to Shift, but most importantly, thank you for the business and thank you for your trust in Commvault. That means everything to us, and we appreciate it.
Thank you, Commvault. It was really great having you and looking forward.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And Michael, thank you. Absolutely fantastic. Your insight is for the tight years you've been here is just fantastic. Yep. So, in closing, we will reimburse you for all of the paper you've used to take down what has just been an unbelievable set of advice. Deb, thank you, and Michael. And for those that want to learn more, please go to readyverse.com. We just launched this brand new site, and it is chock full of information, blogs, white papers, videos, and it is constantly refreshed to keep you on top of all of the things that Deb and Michael have been talking about, and we want your feedback. That's where you'll find launch points for everything else, all that is Commvault. So, Chris Mierzwa for this Shift Live podcast here in New York City for 2025. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Thank you.